في بريطانيا تم إطلاق فيلم إنتو داست للمخرج البريطاني أورلاندو فون آنسيديل الذي تم ترشيحه ل4 جوائز أوسكار، حصد منها جائزتين عن فيلمه الخوذات البيضاء عام 2016 وعن فيلم If You Are a Girl عام 2020. أحمد العناني التقى أورلاندو وأجرى معه هذا اللقاء الحصري لصباح العربية.
Supply of water in the world.
To heighten scarcity around the world.
मेरा नाम परवीन रहमान है। आपके इस इलाके में मेंस वाटर सप्लाई है?
Did you know they were cutting water in Orangi?
It's not cutting, it's rationing.
Then it should be equal across the city, right? We found illegal hydrants operating in the open. Someone is protecting them.
Parveen Rahman, known to many as the mother of Karachi, was killed by a gunman.
The police barely asked any questions at the scene. No investigation.
What will be left?
So first of all, thank you for giving us the time for this interview, and we wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Orlando, how would you usually introduce yourself to the public?
I would say I'm Orlando von Einsiedeln, and I'm a filmmaker.
Have you always been a filmmaker?
Do you know, I have a very strange route into filmmaking. I was a professional snowboarder a long time ago, and I learned how to make films by learning how to film my friends snowboarding and taking photographs of them, and that sort of got me into filmmaking. And then eventually I sort of sidestepped into documentary filmmaking, and that kind of set me off on a path mostly making documentary films.
It seems that you're always interested in the social causes or geopolitics. Why there is this kind of interest? Where does it come from?
Filmmaking is a very slow process. Some films you can spend years working on them. At least for me, I have to really believe in the subject matter. I've got to care about it. I've got to be invested in the people that the film's about. If I'm going to devote a significant part of my life to it, and I think often I'm drawn to issues that I believe are important, issues that I think we all should be aware of, because they either affect us directly, or they're an issue that if more people paid attention to, there might be, that issue might be fixed a lot quicker. So they're often the things that draw me in. Your recent film is Into the Dust. Why did you choose the water crisis to be the topic of this film, and also why Parveen Rahman as a heroine of the story? So Into Dust began in earnest when we learned about the story of Parveen Rahman and her sister Akila Ismail, and I think I was really struck at the bravery of these two women fighting for the rights of Karachi's most vulnerable citizens despite enormous threats to themselves. And I think as a filmmaker, I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of my life telling stories about people who risk their own lives for a cause bigger than themselves. And I think their story really epitomised that. It was also a story which spoke to the global water crisis. I'd never even heard that the world was really facing a water crisis, and I was shocked at learning that just in a few decades, 5 billion people are going to be experiencing high or extremely high water stress. This is a resource that we all rely on every day in order to survive. I found that really shocking. And lastly, the reason this story appealed to me, I suppose, on a really personal level is I had a brother who died too young. I've experienced what it's like to lose a sibling. Akila lost Parveen far too early. For the audience who will watch the film, and for those who have seen it, what's the one straightforward message you want them to get? Is it a message about the water crisis, or is it a message about the gangs and organized crimes in Pakistan and in developing countries in general? What are you trying to say here? I mean, there's two things that I would love people that I hope people take away from this story. One is absolutely to understand about the crisis facing the world in terms of water. And Karachi is, in some ways, shows a more acute example. And it shows an example of where, when water starts to become scarce, it isn't just taps running dry, it is you know, an erosion of governance, an erosion of the rule of law, you know, enhanced criminality. That's the kind of stuff which ends up happening. So definitely, hopefully people will be aware of that. They'll think about their own water footprint. We're all aware of what a carbon footprint is, but we all have a water footprint.
Well, my last question for you is, what's next for you? What's in the pipeline?
You know, this is the question that's always very hard to answer because we work on lots of different things, and mostly, if we haven't released them, we can't even talk about them.
In general, like, is there a new film coming, fiction film, another documentary?
Okay, I can talk about one. Yeah, there is a film which comes out in early next year. It's called From Devil's Breath, and it is a film about restoration and biodiversity and the climate crisis.
What a choice of titles, like
yeah,
Into the Dust and From the Devil's Breath. It's amazing names. Well, Orlando, thank you very much for this interview, and we wish you more films to come and more Oscars to be on the table as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.